Thank you, everybody, for. Thank you. All right, thanks everybody for coming this evening to our regular meeting of Monday, July 21st, 2025. We're going to be joined momentarily. Council member is on her way in. She's dealing with something for the library at the moment, so she'll be here momentarily. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're gonna so I'm gonna give the councilwoman another minute. I'm gonna motion to approve minutes first for those members who are here. I'm going to motion to adopt the minutes from Monday, July 7th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we're going to hold off on the public hearing just until Councilwoman Marinucci is able to get here. So I can ask our town clerk to please call the roll in the meantime.
Okay. Supervisor Copa.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Lavin.
Present.
Councilmember Berger.
Here.
And Councilmember Zucala.
Here. And like I said, we'll see Councilwoman Marinucci momentarily.
She's coming.
Just to go over what is on the agenda this evening, there are two public hearings tonight. The first is on Resolution 564. It's a continuation of the public hearing for 2190 and 2200 Worley Drive. It's a bicentennial comprehensive plan amendment. The second is Resolution 629. It's a public hearing related to 46 to 84 South Linden Street, and that is a proposed rezoning measure. Neither of those items have development action plans associated with them this evening. This board typically doesn't vote on land use items the evening of public hearing. And now that Councilwoman Marinucci is able to join us, I will motion to resume the public hearing or reopen the public hearing on Resolution 564, the 2190 to 2200 Worley Drive Bicentennial Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we did have a presentation by the petitioner at the last meeting. I'm going to ask them to briefly restate what the intent of the Bicentennial Comprehensive Plan Amendment is. In addition, give them an opportunity if there is any new information that they would like to offer.
Yes, good evening, Supervisor Colpin, members of the town board. Sean Hopkins on behalf of the petitioner, Young Development, Inc. Also with me on behalf of Young Development are both Joe Young and Tom Lewis, as well as Patrick Sheedy from Carmina Wood Design. As the supervisor indicated in his introductory comments, this is a continuation of the public hearing held on June 23rd. So to a large degree, I'm going to focus the presentation on new information, but of course, if there's any questions about what we've previously presented, we welcome that input as well. I think at this point, we all know the site, 2190 and 2200 Worley Drive, has a very lengthy planning history going back for at least 25 years. It's nearly 25 acres in size, currently zoned office building district, which is important. It's zoned office building district. We will be at some point, if the comprehensive plan amendment is approved, be requesting a rezoning to MFR 6, which is multifamily residential 6. What's in front of you this evening is a request to amend the comprehensive plan to designate this site as what's called in the comprehensive plan as appropriate for medium residential, whereas now it's designated as appropriate for commercial office. Subsequent to the public hearing you held on June 23rd, we did have a third informational meeting on July 8th at the Main Transit Fire Hall. I know some of the residents that attended that meeting are in attendance this evening as well, and we want to express our appreciation for their continued participation in the review process. And that's just figure 6, showing specifically what we're asking, literally just to amend what's figure 6, again, to designate the site as medium residential. It's a zoning map highlighting the fact that the site is currently zoned zoned OB. And as you see, there is a wide assortment of zoning classifications in the immediate vicinity, including several nearby parcels that are already zoned multifamily. It's a copy of the previous most recent site plan. So this is useful because it's a comparison. So Aquest, the current owner, previously did receive site plan approval a couple of years ago for what we think is a very large commercial project, 4 large office buildings consisting of nearly 284,697 square feet. Keep in mind that this is the eastern portion of the site, which is the homeowners along Bellingham, which has been our focus. And you can see under that scenario, to a large degree, they were showing a public roadway terminating in a cul-de-sac right along the property line. We think we've done much better as a result of this planning process. I'm not going to focus on this except for 1 second. So this is where we started. We started with what we showed was 366 units. This was presented to the planning board on May 15th. 5 4-story buildings, which are highlighted with the orange stars, with a minimum setback of 181 feet from the back of the home or the lots on Bellingham, and a green space buffer of 55 feet. We heard from the residents. They asked us to increase both the green space buffer and to play around with the location of the 5-story or 4-story buildings, and we've accomplished both of those goals. So here's the most recently updated concept plan that we submitted recently, dated July 10th. So several things. Number one, the planning department asked us to provide a recreational pedestrian trail connection to what's the existing Garfield Road stub street. When we met with the neighbors for a third time on July 8th, there was a unanimous consensus from those in attendance who also indicated they'd talked to the other homeowners on Bellingham. They do not want that connection. So as part of our concerted effort to incorporate the input from those property owners, we've removed that connection. The planning department did provide you with a memorandum on Friday expressing their opinion. They'd like to see it remain. Ultimately, that's going to be up to this board, but I want to make it clear, Young Development is not proposing that recreational trail connection. Secondly, what have we done? We've previously increased the amount of permanent open space along the eastern property line. It was originally 55 feet to 70 feet, which is more than what's required by code. During the informational meeting held on July 8th, we advised the residents that basically we were going to double the amount of landscaping in that area. We'll show you what that means in a second. We also are showing, of course, the off-site potential future recreational trail in the National Grid easement. That would connect all the way from Worley Drive to Main Street if it was effectuated in its entirety. We think that would be a useful amenity, not only for this project, but for that entire area. And I also want to note we've enhanced the landscaping not only on the eastern boundary of the site, but also around the entire perimeter. You'll also recall we added this 100-foot wide linear green space on this portion of the site that we want to designate as a principal pedestrian access for residents to access, number one, the community building and related amenities, and then number two, the dog park, which is located back here. So we think we've come a long way from when we first began this project earlier this year. And that's a color version of that same plan. It's the elevation of the 2-story, 10-unit townhomes, which are the first 3 rows. Again, the closest we have any 4-story multifamily building is 500 feet from the rear of the homes on Bellingham. One of the comments that came up specifically during that most recent informational meeting was what would be the view of someone that's standing in the back of one of the townhomes, the 2-story townhomes, located closest to the rear of the lots on Bellingham. So we did have this rendering prepared, and basically here's what we're showing. So this is literally standing on a balcony behind one of those units on the 2nd floor, looking down into the Bellingham neighborhood. So when we originally got this, what we thought was, well, we could probably enhance this landscaping even more. So we went back to the drawing board and increased the landscaping once again. Here's what we're proposing. We're proposing locust trees that'll have a planting height of approximately 12 feet, approximately double what's required. Those are located here, 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 and here. Within 3 to 5 years, those should grow to about 18 to 20 feet. We're secondly showing, which is the next level in terms of the height of the trees, clump maples. Those will have a planting height of 10 to 12 feet, again, compared to the typical 6 to 7 feet. Those will grow rather quickly to a height of 15 to 18 feet. So we call those the mid screening, the locust trees being the high screening. Then we're also going to supplement that with evergreen trees, which you can see. Those will have a planting height of 6 to 8 feet and will grow to approximately 12 to 15 feet, 3 to 5 growing seasons. And then finally, to really try and obscure the view as much as possible of the residential neighborhood to the east, we'll supplement that with a wide assortment of shrubs, including lilac, burning bush, dappled willow, serviceberry, all occupying that band of about 4 to 8 feet. So we are going to implement this landscaping. We can't guarantee anyone that from some particular view in the balcony or in one of these units, you can't see into someone's backyard. But by starting with plantings that are 12 feet tall, I really don't think that will occur. So we've tried to make this as accurate as possible. And again, from the back of one of the 2-story townhome units looking here, looking across the 70 feet of green space, then to the fence on the property line, then to the homes located directly to the east. And it is important to note, there's a nice neighborhood consisting of ranches with fairly shallow backyards. They're wide lots, but not particularly deep lots. There's the elevation again of those 49-unit, 4-story multifamily buildings. Again, only 500 feet away from the closest rear lot line on Bellingham. Highlighting that informational meeting we held on July 8th. We did send a follow-up email on July 11th, and we've advised the residents we'll continue to keep them involved in the review process as we go forward. We've submitted some additional documentation from Patrick Sheedy, the project engineer, who's here as well. Basically, we summarized the sanitary sewer demand for this project. We've already submitted to the town a downstream sanitary sewer capacity analysis report that confirms there is adequate downstream sanitary sewer capacity during wet weather conditions, which the DEC defines as a precipitation event of more than ½ inch. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, pursuant to the town's I&I law, we will be required to make a contribution in the amount of approximately $171,000, a fairly sizable financial contribution to off-site sanitary sewer improvements, not necessary for this particular project. Pat also summarized the stormwater management system, an additional topic that came up during the most recent informational meeting. And basically, to summarize, we're well aware of the stringent stormwater quality and quantity standards that will apply, both of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the town's very own engineering department. Our on-site system will handle a 100-year storm event. It's also required to be designed so it can accommodate any water that currently flows onto the site from off-site parcels. That'll be a series of catch basin, injection wells, et cetera, et cetera. So well aware of those requirements, all to be verified during the site plan application review process. The biggest topic that's come up to date, both during the public hearing held by this board on June 23rd, and as a result of our discussions with neighbors, is adequacy of existing water pressure in that area, and specifically, what, if any, impact will this project have on existing water or water demand and water pressures and flows. So with that being said, Pat did submit a separate letter dated June 30th that I'm going to let him summarize.
Hi, good evening, Pat Sheedy, Carmino Design. So we submitted some preliminary information to the Water Authority for them to analyze that existing water main system. And basically what they came back with is the proposed system that we will install for this project on site will not have any negative impacts to the existing water main system on Worley or in the surrounding neighborhoods. We have that documented in the letter that we had submitted. Basically, what we're going to propose to do is have a private on-site pumping system to service the clubhouse and residential multifamily buildings, as well as the private fire hydrants that would be installed on site.
And attached to that letter was some mapping that Pat obtained specifically from the Erie County Water Authority. Important to verify, these are preliminary analysis. Again, as part of the site plan approval process, all of that will need to be verified, but Pat has coordinated and made an effort with the Erie County Water Authority. Comprehensive plan. We talked about this in great detail during the hearing on June 23rd. And we think to a T, if you follow the recommendation issued by the planning board on May 15th and look specifically at the actual text of the comprehensive plan, that this is a relatively easy decision in terms of the comprehensive plan amendment. At this point in time, there really is no demand in the southeastern portion of the town or elsewhere for what I would call speculative office, especially on a site of this size. We can drive up and down, just by way of an example, Audubon Parkway, and there's approximately 300,000 square feet of vacant office space. So it's not foreseeable at any point in time that the existing property owner would be able to successfully develop this site as an office park project, despite the fact that the site plan was already approved. The planning department did prepare a very detailed memo, specifically Reporter Rapaccio, dated May 7th. We agreed to it to a T, and I want to highlight on a couple of things. Number one, it highlights the fact that at that time, based on 2024, there was an office space vacancy rate of approximately 16.5%. It indicates that multifamily represents an excellent transitional use between commercial parcels located to the west and single-family residential to the east. It talks about the need for different types of housing, meaning not just traditional suburban single-family home on individual lot, but units that are for lease, condominium units, townhome units, et cetera, et cetera. And as we indicated previously, we're proposing that 20% of the units on site would be workforce housing pursuant to the program that's been established by the Town of Amherst Industrial Development Agency. What that means is this project by itself will deliver more than 60 workforce housing units, which I believe is a sizable number towards the goal of establishing more workforce housing in the town. And that would be a total of 67 units. I also want to respond again to the letter that was submitted by Mark Romanowski representing Winsong Place Associates LP and Winsong Apartments, basically the owner of the multifamily projects located on the opposite side of the National Grid right-of-way, which is approximately 80 feet in width, to the west of the site. And one of the comments in that letter was the fourth bullet point. Winsong voices its opposition to the proposed amendment in the interest of the existing residents that live at Winsong and the single-family residential neighborhood to the east of the project site. I want to emphasize again that we've focused our efforts to date on the single-family residential subdivision located to the east of the site, basically the homeowners on Bellingham. We have supplemented the landscaping on the west side, which borders Mr. Wisbaum's property, but our effort and the goal of providing 70 foot of green space, 500-foot setback to the 4-story buildings has been to focus on Bellingham. Seeker. So also in connection with this, you will ultimately be required to issue a seeker determination. As Supervisor Culpa indicated, you will not be issuing that decision this evening, but we've provided very extensive documentation that clearly demonstrates this project will not result in any potentially significant adverse environmental impacts. That includes a jurisdictional determination issued by the United States Army Corps of Engineers on January 22nd of 2021, a no impact letter issued by the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, dated October 4th, an updated traffic impact study prepared by Amy Dake, a traffic engineer from Pissarro Associates, the downstream sanitary sewer analysis prepared by Carmina Wood Design, the on-site stormwater management system information, and then finally, we've had an evaluation of water pressure. In terms of community character impacts, I think these are clearly positive compared to what's allowed today pursuant to the existing OB zoning, which would allow 5-story buildings with a height of 65 feet. And then finally, we have mentioned the need to comply with the on-site stormwater quality and quantity standards of the DEC. So with all that being said, based on the information we've presented this evening, as well as the previous public hearing, we are asking respectfully that you close the public hearing and schedule a decision date. And once again, we welcome any questions or input that any of you or any of the residents may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from the board first? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to residents. So again, if you're here, I know some people signed in. You don't have to sign in. Adam Carl, I think you were first to sign in for this item.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. I guess I'm getting my public speaking practice here by coming to these meetings. Not to rehash on a lot of things that are. Oh, sorry about that. First name's Adam, last name's Carl, Karl. I'm at 305 Bellingham Drive. Not to rehash a lot of the back and forth that's already happened, just a couple quick recaps of what's been presented between the last meeting and this meeting. The water pressure is still an issue. The water pressure will be an issue. Some of the dated letters and the materials that were in the agenda packet today, including a email on June 17th between Carmina Wood and the Water Authority, stated that even at peak use, that this water pressure could fall below 40 pounds per square inch. That doesn't seem like a lot, but a lot of your home appliances, stuff like that, run on a higher PSI. The fire department is a very important PSI level. It marks in here on June 30th that it's their professional opinion that the water pressure will not be affected negatively. I've crawled down smoky fire hallways. We've had this issue for dozens of years. No one's ever changed it, and this is only going to drastically decline or degrade the water pressure in our area. I think that I speak for the residents that aren't here that are out of town. Again, we're asking for a reduction in density, height, and size, and some setback. They've been really good with meeting some or coming a little bit more, but the 70-foot doesn't match the 100-foot that the George Carl development that's just down the road had. That they said 100-foot was to match or to buffer the existing single-family residence to the zoning change that went to an office building, but they also had a 2-story height restriction for that. So we're just looking for some of the same restrictions, requirements that were given to other projects in the past to just bring the density and the size down. That's all we ask. We're not naive thinking that nothing's ever going to get built here. We'd like nothing to be built there, but it's not our land, and it'd be a pipe dream to think that. So in closing, I would just ask that this property get rezoned to either single family or mixed residential. The medium residential is a very high density to neighbor single family homes. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks.
John Traver, Mount Vernon Road. I don't know anything about this project. I don't even live close to it. But can you tell me quickly how many units are going to be on that property?
So, yeah, John, this is a comprehensive plan amendment. They do show unit counts here, but it's not a rezoning. So at the end of the day, they're showing 330 some units, but it's not the rezoning action where we actually set a unit count per se.
And we usually have the representative from the developer answer questions, not
Right.
the board.
Well, it's a pretty simple question. So if you got 330 units multiplied times 2, and then everybody's got a car in there, you think about the traffic congestion, and then you got Amazon going in there, you got a post office going in there, you got United States Postal Service going in there. It just seems like a rather large project, and I agree with Mr. Carl for adjoining to a residential area. And then one quick question, is there any tax incentive that's being offered to the builder in this project?
So again, it's a comprehensive plan amendment. They would have to go from here through rezoning, then do a site plan review, and then if they wanted to, they could go to the IDA. But it's a comp plan amendment. It's not an IDA. It's not a site plan review, and it's not a rezoning.
So nowhere there's ever been a conversation about any tax incentive for the builder.
I want to remind the board and Mr. Traber,
Yeah.
this is a public hearing which is give and take. You can ask questions of the
Sure.
board, and they can save them and have the applicant respond, which is the normal course of process. No disrespect, but
No.
that's how the process is supposed to work.
No, and I appreciate that. No disrespect taken. So I'm just simply, because I don't know anything about it,
I
Mr.
get it.
Vanguard. So it's just a couple of simple questions.
Again, so we'll let the petitioner come up and talk about that. They can if they want. At this time, it's not what is being decided here.
Right. And then just one more question, if I may. What is the tax advantage to the town? How will this increase our tax base to help the other residents of the town? Thank you.
That's it. Yeah, okay.
Good evening, Town Board members. My name is Don Smith. I just want to remind everybody what a bicentennial comprehensive plan amendment really is. It's a core power of the Town Board. It changes a specific core document called the comprehensive plan and becomes essentially the equivalent, I don't know if it's law, but it's as strong as it can be in terms of how the state views the municipality's view of its own operation. It isn't anything else. There's nothing in here. Everything they've shown here on the board is ideas. What they always call it is a conceptual plan. What that means is it's a concept. Now, doesn't mean they didn't do a lot of work on it. They did, apparently. It doesn't mean that they don't have great plans for this. They probably do. But this board really has to decide whether what they've been presented with is sufficient to go and change a core document that tells how we as a municipality view our development over a specific period of time. The comprehensive, which means large, plan. It's the so-called bicentennial comprehensive plan. So hopefully people will understand that there's a lot coming out of this and there's a lot going into this. There's a lot of pressure on this board to make this change based on what they've seen and what they see as what they want to do for the town. So right now, all the information that John asked was important, but they can't answer it right now because they don't have the information to do it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Board. My name is Susan Roman of 231 Bellingham Drive. I don't have anything profound or lengthy to say tonight. I have nothing prepared. Many of our neighbors were not able to be here due to obviously summer commitments and vacations. Unfortunately, I'm here, but I just want to show my support for my and their concerns, since they couldn't be here, be on the record that there is support for the community. And at the same time, while Young Development and Mr. Hopkins may feel that we want to eat them for dinner, I do want to put on the record that we as a group have been very appreciative that they have been personable and welcoming with what we have to say. What they do with it might be another story, but I think that does need to be acknowledged. And I would hope that nothing happens too soon and that they are willing to continue to work with us to meet us where in the end we can all resolve this in a good way. Thank you.
Good evening. John Krempo, 110 Oakwood, 3 blocks away from where this project's being considered. Talking about water pressure and hearing this gentleman talk about putting booster pumps for their facility. So what them booster pumps will do, it'll pull water off our mains to them and directly reduce our pressure. If the town wants to do anything about it, they're going to have to upgrade their pumps. So they're going to be taking water from us to go 4 stories up, put the head pressure or whatnot. Totally against it. Our water pressure is terrible now. Been here 25 years. Nothing's been done about it. Been to many of these meetings. Everybody always wants to change zoning laws and changing zones and everything else. totally disagree with this. I think we're gonna have a lot of traffic. It's, I don't know, it's crazy in that area right now. We have the Spindrift Apartments, we have a lot of businesses around there, people zip up and down our streets. Bellingham and Amsterdam, they have, they go in there and it's, they go both ways. So they go to Oakwood and they fly down the street 60, 70 miles an hour to go to lunch. A lot of congestion on the street, a lot of kids playing on the street. I don't think we need this. I mean, 339 apartments. I mean, in that little area, that's just crazy. 4 stories high. The water pressure, once again, is terrible. It's just, to me, it's just way too big for that area. From what I understand, that used to be a wetlands, and then Mr. Huntress bought it, knowing it was a wetlands, and now he's selling it to somebody else. So we juggling here with the zones. It doesn't make sense to me. My neighbors, and I stand with the people on Bellingham saying that it's unwanted. It's too much. Understandable, something's gonna go there eventually, but it shouldn't have been, because it used to be wetlands, and it was supposed to stay that way. And the town don't need that money we're gonna get from them, because it's just gonna cost the town more money. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mary Jo Kaylee Wolf. I'm at 155 Bellingham Drive. So last meeting, I had asked about where the traffic study had been done. And afterwards, he answered the question, and it was all on Worley between Transit and Garrison. So the traffic study said that, hey, we can get people out on Worley and we can get them to transit in these other places. But the traffic study didn't study any of the roads after they get off. So point being, Young's Road will clog up completely. If you're on Worley, you take a right onto Young's, you could be stopped 1/3 of the way up it and have to go through 2 or 3 lights series before you can get out of the main and Young's Road light. Young's Road between Sheridan Drive and Main, same thing. You can come in off of Sheridan Drive onto Young's and you're clogged up before you even get up the hill trying to get back. So we may be able to get these people out into Worley, but we're not going to be able to get them anyplace else. There's 2.7 parking spaces allowed in this plan for these apartments. That's nearly 900 parking spaces. So we're taking 24.9, almost 25 acres of green space and reducing it to, I don't know, a couple acres of green space, maybe 5 at the most. So it seems excessive. Traffic is going to be bad. So I really hope that you do not approve this spot for such a high density of residential. And it really would be a negative for the town board at this point to really put something like that where it is. I was trying to look up MFR6. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I did find something for residential, and it said that this high density residential was supposed to be more downtown where all the services already are. We are not downtown where we are located. So the density that is being put here is in the wrong spot. So please reduce the density.
Hello, Tom Unkelbaum, 189 Bellingham. Pretty much everything she just said, I thought I had some new stuff. It was mostly on the traffic. Number one, it just doesn't fit. You look around the area, it just plain doesn't fit. Our water pressure is awful. Then you go throw in, that's minimum 600 more people possibly using the water all at the same time, this just going to make it awfully worse. The fire company couldn't even put out their fire in their building, let alone, God forbid, one of these places go up. I mean, you'd hope, 4 stories. I don't know what happened to our 2-story limit that used to be in the area, but I mean, a 4-story building going, that's almost catastrophic. I don't know how they could figure they're going to be okay with the water pressure. The traffic she was mentioning, nobody did a study on Main Street. They did the Worley Drive study. Well, Worley and where Worley breaks off and the other street turns into Village, that one's that's awful there at peak times. It's just that. But that College, Young's Road's going to be a mess. But just me, the poor people in Oakwood, I feel bad about my street. But during any close to peak times, the people turning left onto Brompton, I might have one spot to get in, and half the time I'm facing a guy head on who pulled in early to go turn left onto Brompton to get down my street. With these people, they're all going to figure out to cut through because they don't want to go down Transit Road through three lights there and then possibly hit the George Carl light. They'll miss 4 lights if they go and they figure out they can cut through our streets. So it's going to be a nightmare for me to get down my street or get out. But like they might figure out that Oakwood is just it's a racetrack. The people there are already pissed because nobody does 30 miles an hour on it. And they got all their little signs up, slow down, 30 miles an hour. They're upset. So I don't know if they realize what this all entails. I'm sorry, my back's killing me. I think these guys are being blown over about the rock situation. Having nothing been there, they put that dentist office at Main and Brompton for over 6 months straight. They beat the rock with their rock beater because they're not allowed to use explosives. So they couldn't blast, and they beat the rock for over 6 months just for that one little corner. I mean, I feel bad for the neighbor of that place, but let alone, to put all the water and sewer lines and stuff in there, I don't think they really know what they're getting into and how much that, that's their job. It looks like they're trying to be nice. Oh, is that my time up? They're doing it. It seems like they're being nice about it and trying, but this is just way too much to even try to stuff into there. There's going to be 600 or 1,000 extra people, and all those cars and stuff. Let alone all the green space. That's a lot of heat. Blacktop puts off heat. The ground puts off nothing. Walk on the ground on a 95-degree day on grass, and then go walk on pavement and see what you think. But it's just for that area, it's just way too much. I think I got everything in. But like I said, nobody did any studies, or I don't think they fully did all their research. It's their job. They went, okay, I'm done. That's their job, but it's, thank you. Thank you.
Right. Good evening, town board members, Supervisor Brian Culpa. My name is Thomas Frank. I reside at 5403 Main Street, and I wanted to comment on the Bicentennial Comprehensive Plan Amendment. As far as the context, that the village is going through the community plan update, that there's a connection between the Bicentennial Comprehensive All-Inclusive Master Bicentennial Plan for the village and the town, that there's connections, and that the stormwater management system, that there are issues having to do with the hydrogeographic topography, the context of the development, as well as the stormwater drainage pattern, What was interesting was to see the SEQR, the seeker, the New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation comment negatively on the project. That what I would like you to consider is the Amherst Central State Park Greenway, having to do with the drainage of the area. And that what's interesting is that the Western New York Greenway Planning Summit meeting, they brought up these issues having to do with long-term. What's interesting is that the contractor that the village hired for $160,000 to upgrade the plan for the 1.2 square mile village that is adjacent to this project, that the Collins Engineering and Design Company they were the contractors for the Genesee Valley Greenway State Park project, that this is a part of that. As far as what I'd like you to consider, as far as the Amherst Central State Park Greenway, as far as the interconnection of, it has to do with the drainage and long-term. Great, thank you.
Good evening, Mark Romanowski from Rupp Fallsgraf, here on behalf of Windsong Associates. On behalf of Windsong Associates, our concerns are primarily with the process by which this is being handled and the use of the comprehensive plan to effectively review the project as a whole. The applicant has specifically requested that the board render a decision under seeker relative to the potential environmental impacts. As this board knows, that effectively would act to approve the project if the board decided that it did not have any significant adverse environmental impacts. So while this has been couched as a comprehensive plan amendment, it effectively paves the way for site plan approval and rezoning, even though those two items aren't before this board. The concerns that my client have are really relative to the density, not the use. The use seems, a residential use seems certainly appropriate to the site, but the level of density raises concerns about potential impacts with that density. As a number of the neighbors have said, they have concerns regarding water pressure and they have concerns regarding traffic. It does not appear that those issues have been fully vetted at this stage, so it seems a little premature for the town board to be taking on the seeker issues at this stage. That's the concern of my client. Should the board decide to move forward with the comprehensive plan amendment, we would suggest that perhaps you limit the rezoning on the parcel to something that's MFR 5 or below, which would bring the density down to a lower level that perhaps this neighborhood could absorb. Thank you very much.
My name is Bruce Wisbaum. I represent approximately 600 residents at Windsong Place Apartments. I spoke at the last meeting. I will try not to be redundant and go over those issues. I just want to talk about some things that I feel are important. Water pressure has been brought up a number of times. The reality of the situation, the report can say whatever it wants, but the reality is there is a water pressure. We get complaints all the time at our apartments. I have a lawn irrigation system that I have to, I have not used it very much because when we do, the residents complain about lack of water pressure, so we keep it to a very limited amount. Also, I want to comment, at the last meeting, Mr. Hopkins mentioned that I was concerned about competition. I just think an MFR 6 density is way too much. I don't have a problem if they go MFR 5, that's what Windsong is. Also, I want to mention that they had a meeting on July 8th that Mr. Hopkins referred to. At the last meeting, I specifically mentioned I had not been invited to that last meeting. I was again not invited to this meeting. And again, I represent 600 people living at Windsong. He's very concerned about what's happening on Bellingham. And I don't know, there may be 20 homes there that have maybe if 3 people per home. It could have 60 people. I represent 600 people, and I am not invited to those meetings. He talked about everything he did for the Bellingham residents. What he did to me is that he moved those 4-story buildings along my property line. He talks about the extensive plantings that were done on the eastern portion of the property along Bellingham. Didn't talk about what he did for me. He actually made it a lot worse for me. Those buildings should be knocked down to 2-story buildings, or they should be moved to the center of the building. And again, as our attorney mentioned, that this is the residential, what he's proposing is too great, and they're using this master plan discussion in disguise for changing the zoning to MFR 6. He keeps mentioning MFR 6. By the way, the density at MFR 6 versus MFR 5 is approximately 40% more residents than what I have. The rents, also at the last meeting, Mr. Hopkins mentioned some low rents. If I'm trying to remember, I think he was around $1,300 he talked about per unit. The actual rents, if you use the 80% AMI, it works out to $1,616 per unit for a 1-bedroom and over $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. If he's really interested in making these affordable, he should look at affordable housing, not workforce housing. He is looking for an IDA inducement, which he mentioned, which will mean he's requesting lower property taxes. Also, you should go look at the Midtown project that was built on Transit in Genesee and look at the buildings that he's proposing. The same buildings he's proposing to build here is what he built at Midtown. Those buildings are, I think, very unattractive. They're huge. The height should be unacceptable for this neighborhood.
Mr. Wisbaum, you know it's rang twice. It's time.
Pardon me?
Your time's up.
Okay. Thank you.
Sean, Pat, do you want to come back up? Some questions.
So I'll do my best to briefly respond to the comments. I'm going to focus on topics. I'll start with Mr. Wisbaum, who spoke last. I want to make it clear, we are asking for the exact same comprehensive designation he has, exactly the same, which is medium residential. In terms of the process, we're following the town's process. Mr. Romanowski suggested this is kind of improper because we're teeing up a secret determination. You have to issue a secret determination in connection with the comp plan amendment. We're simply following your process. It is a sequential process. Comp plan amendment, rezoning, site plan, hearings at each and every stage. So in terms of questions about the process, in terms of seeker, we think we've addressed the topics. Will there be more work to be done in the future when we get to site plan approval? Yes. But that work will be to confirm that what we are saying is accurate, that we meet all the applicable stringent technical standards. It won't be Pat Sheedy from Carmina Wood Design. It won't be Amy Dake from Passero Associates, our traffic engineer. It will be the town departments, the town committees, the New York State Department of Transportation, the Erie County Water Authority, the Erie County Department of Public Works, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. They will confirm whether we meet the standards. That is their job. We're comfortable that we will meet those standards. In fact, we know we will meet those standards. In terms of traffic itself, I want to remind everyone that if you look back at the historical documents, which are thousands of pages in the town's files, if this was developed based on its existing long-standing office building development zoning classification, it would generate far, far, far more traffic, both during the AM peak and PM peak hour. Because this is multifamily, number one, the traffic is less during those peak periods, and it is spread out. In terms of IDA or possible IDA involvement, this project is not predicated on receiving IDA approval, but we thought it was appropriate to disclose the fact that, yes, we're interested in including a workforce housing component. The town has been emphasizing that. That would be 67 units. The project will still be a tremendous fiscal windfall to the town, the county, and the school district because of the fact all the infrastructure on site, sewer, water, green space, pavement, buildings, lighting, all will be privately owned and privately maintained. Again, we're talking about an investment of approximately $100 million. So it'll clearly have a positive fiscal impact compared to what's there today, which is nothing, despite the fact it's been zoned OB for 20 years. We've heard a lot of discussion about the density. This is not high density, folks. We're at 13.3 units per acre. If you compare that to multifamily projects throughout the town, even close by, this would be viewed as being medium density. It's certainly not high density. There are examples of projects in the town of Amherst with a density that is 300% higher. In terms of water pressure, we get it. We understand it. I want to note Mr. Carl is a fireman. He volunteers his time. He has a legitimate concern about water pressure. We will have to confirm that we meet it both for domestic and firefighting purposes. So I understand and I acknowledge his concern, but that will need to occur. Pat's done as much homework on that as he can now at this stage, but again, will need to be verified, and he's reached out to the Water Authority. And then finally, in terms of impacts on the neighborhood, we really just think we've come a long way. Will we make everyone happy? Absolutely not. That cannot be our goal. But we're showing 500 feet away for those 4-story buildings. From here to here, we've doubled it. We've reduced the density. We've added green space. We've added pedestrian access. So we think we've done everything we can. I heard a comment that there's only an acre or two of green space. There is 7 acres of green space. So approximately 33% of the site, you can see it highlighted in green, including most importantly, this buffer area will be green space. I also want to note, Mr. Wisbaum said we've deliberately chosen to focus on the 20 or so homeowners on Bellingham versus him and his 600 representatives, or the 600 people he claims to represent. We have. I acknowledge that, but we have enhanced the landscape on his side as well. We went back and made that change for Bellingham. We agreed, while we may not need to do it, we should do that along Mr. Wisbaum's property as well. And keep in mind, he's not next door. There's an 80-foot wide right-of-way between us. So for him to claim that the density or anything else is going to have adverse impacts on him, I simply think is false and not true. I think, again, he's going to say it's not. It's about competition. He doesn't want new units in the immediate vicinity. And I understand and I get that, but he's very successful, and I'm confident he'll continue to be successful. These are new units. So with all that being said, I think we've addressed the comments. We will, again, continue to engage with neighbors as we move forward. But we think the time has come that at your next meeting, you could issue a decision on the comp plan amendment, which, again, is just a first step in the process of effectuating the approvals. We have many steps to go, including many hearings to be held by this board as well as the planning board. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any
questions?
questions from this board? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing and set a decision date for the first meeting in August 4th.
Second.
Sorry.
It's the
It's
second
got to be the
meeting,
18th, yes.
the 18th.
Because that's, so with that correction, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing on Resolution
Linden.
629, which is 46 to 84 South Linden Street rezoning. I'm going to motion to open a public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to give everybody a moment to clear out for those of people who are leaving. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Palumbo. I'm with the law firm of Black Longo. We represent the petitioner in connection with this request to rezone this particular property from R3 to MFR5. As indicated here, you're all very familiar with this, as we've gone through a very exhaustive process starting several years ago with my client's purchase from the town of the paper street, South Linden itself. You can go to the next slide. So you can skip this one. I don't know why I put that in there, but this is the concept plan. We've had several of them, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with what's being proposed at this time. But again, we're at the rezoning stage. We are not at the site plan stage. This is our best estimate at this point as to what we intend to build on the site, which is 2 townhouse buildings, one of which has 12 units and the other has 16 units. And we have flip-flopped the parking garages, which you see on the east side of the property now. At one time, they were on the west side, adjacent to the single-family homes behind us, but we flip-flopped it and put the green space and the retention pond in that area to provide as much buffer to the existing neighbors as is possible. So we have one entrance off of Worley Drive. It's a private road that leads into the development, and we also have a hookup onto the other side, on the north side, which is McIntyre. What you don't see here, you may see, I think, on the next picture, if we included it, is the thruway, which is immediately adjacent to us. So there's a wall that you've all are very familiar with, which is on the opposite side of McIntyre, that's that's on the north property line. So we believe that single family would not be the way to go here. There's the lamppost next to us. There's OTB down the street. We have shown in the past when this board recommended a modification of the comprehensive plan to allow this type of density. We showed that this is a mixed use area itself. There are single family homes immediately adjacent to us. We have what we've already described as the wall adjacent to us on the opposite side of the street on Worley. It's a combination of single-family homes, duplexes, fourplexes, and so on and so forth. So you're all very familiar with the Worley, South Linden area. You know as well as I do that it is a mixed-use area, and we're asking this board to continue the process that we started some time ago, again, with the purchase of the property from the town, an amendment that this board voted on to amend the comprehensive plan to allow this type of multifamily use. The planning board incidentally also recommended approval of the rezoning, so we're asking that this board grant the rezoning. I know you have to issue a negative declaration at some point in time, and what we're asking for this evening is to close the hearing and have the vote in August. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but it's been a laborious process, and we hope we are rounding third and heading for home.
Thank you. First questions from the board?
I just want to clarify something.
Yes.
You said they're townhouses?
Yes.
Okay, because at one point we were talking apartments.
Yeah, they're likely to be rental, but they are townhouses. Yes. Townhouse
Okay.
style. They're
Oh,
not-
I
Yeah.
know that they're apartments. And how many did you say for each building?
One building has 12 units, the other one has 16, total of 28.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So the revision process and what's kind of taking place in terms of transition is the reason why we have this laborious process, right? So it's not just straight comprehensive plan amendment into rezoning. It is actually a process by which we look at each one of those items. Is the land use appropriate? Now we're into the zoning process itself. And obviously there's still site plan approval ahead.
Correct.
Are there any further comments or questions at the moment from the board? If not, I'm going to open it up to public comments. Go ahead.
Don Smith, North Long. My personal opinion on this is essentially what the residents need is requirement. Their needs are what I would back is going on, what the general consensus of the residents are, not necessarily the developer in this one. Okay. I sent in a file, if you could put it up. You got it there? Yeah. Just checking out the ability to send in a PDF file. Okay, this is the example of where the runway 14 intersects over the top of approximately the end of the runway over there. It's approximately 3,000 feet. Aircraft come over the threshold and they run. They don't even land on here. There's no ILS. There's no instrument landing service on this particular runway anyway. So generally landings are limited. It's mostly takeoffs, if that, almost all the time. And if that, it's on the 7,000-foot runway, not the 9,000-foot runway. So it's going to be smaller aircraft, that sort of thing. I'm just giving you the aircraft position on this whole thing. Okay, I've been doing flight simulation for about 15 years. I got thousands of hours in flight simulation. So therefore, the aircraft are probably not going to be a specific issue here. The Buffalo is not a particular high density airport anyway. So that this situation is, the only question I have is a big one. Generally, when you have RF, or you have R3 or R4 residential issues zoning, and you have them juxtaposed against MFR things, I don't like that in general, as a general principle and precedent. So where that can be avoided, it's important to me that it be avoided. Maybe not here, but in a general principle, okay? Because I can see situations occurring where properties are torn down and somebody says, I can put a big property up here. I want to see this as not become a generalized principle from your point of view, just to take it because it's an easy way to go to get higher density, okay? Secondarily, when you put this much people in on the flight path, it's probabilistic. The chances of anything going wrong are small, but the chances of anything happens, it could be more interesting. So you have to think about what about the people who are living in the facilities and where they are and what they're hearing in terms of noise and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So you got to balance that out. But in general, I just don't like the idea of residential and MFR coexisting so close. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll move to close the public hearing and set a decision date for August 18th. 18th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. All right. The next item on our agenda is public expression. I'm going to motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor? I have one sheet here. I don't know if there's another sheet yet. Jane Cox, you're first.
Jane Cox, Harlem Road. I want to ask about Resolution 2025-640. Authorize the supervisor to submit a smart growth planning grant application for the preparation of a new comprehensive plan. I understand you're going to, if this gets approved, which I assume it did, reapply for a grant to begin the process of developing a new comprehensive plan. And I'm wondering what the timeline for this would be. Is the existing plan going to be studied, the whole plan, or is this just a procedure to add all the changes that you've done so far to the current plan as amendments? Can you give us more information about what the process would be to redo the comprehensive plan and what the schedule would be? Thank you.
I'll address that before we get into the consent agenda. Okay, Joseph Lane.
Good evening. I'm Joseph Lane. I live at 6 Goldfinch Court in the Audubon community, and I'm here representing the Audubon Homeowners Association as president. I'm here to speak to you about a plan that was commenced at your direction in 2022 to review and update the new community district, which encompasses all of the land north of UB North Campus, going all the way up to the limits of our town. The planning department was charged with creating an update in 2022, and you directed the planning department to include in that process a steering committee. And it didn't say they might include a steering committee or should consider, it said you will include a steering committee. And our association was was named as one of the participants in that steering committee. The planning department did hold a public hearing in 2023 to announce the commencement of the plan. We were invited to that plan, and that meeting we did participate. And then I waited about a year to hear back about the steering committee, contacted the planning department, and I was told if and when we do decide to convene a steering committee, we'll let you know. And as of last month, a public hearing was announced with the draft of the new community district plan presented at that public hearing. We had not been given a chance to participate in the development of that process. And so here I am presenting what has traditionally happened is sort of come as an adversarial position, objecting to many components of the plan that if we had been participants, we might have been able to resolve during this 2-year process. And you have a 6-page document there, which was submitted to the planning department as our public comments. But I wanted to summarize to you so you're aware of our objections. First, that the NCD update project has not followed the process approved by the town planning board, including the directive to form a steering committee. Second, the new community draft plan is a radical departure from the original plan for the Audubon new community and does not conform to the initial vision for this community. Third, the bullet points in the NCD draft plan's introduction are either irrelevant or actually contradict the justifications presented for rezoning the NCD lands in order to densely pack with multi-story buildings, all available green spaces along Audubon Parkway, including all the land surrounding the police, the courts, the library, and the senior center. Fourth, the economic analysis in this plan presents some accurate data, but the conclusions drawn contradict the data itself, suggesting that the study's authors are biased toward a desired set of conclusions that do not align with the existing community. Fifth, the goals and objectives listed under the plan compatibility of development contain contradictory statements that actually show the draft plan is incompatible with the surrounding area and with the Audubon New Town's original intent. And finally, during a recent public hearing on the draft plan, planning department staff admitted that key elements of the plan are not likely to be even feasible to implement, including surrounding the police and court buildings with new housing. Given all the problems detailed in the attached packet, the Audubon HOA Board of Directors unanimously recommends and requests the town board reject the draft plan and instead direct the planning department to start over by following the inclusive planning process originally outlined by the town board. I'm happy to respond to any comments or questions about this.
I'm going to respond and to all the comments at the end. That's what I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Matt Plunkett.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. I want to comment on the resolution 656 submitted by the Recreation Department for an emergency purchase request for R22. I guess it's a refrigerant they use to keep the ice rink frozen. I can't imagine anything about this resolution that qualifies as an emergency. You read the resolution, whereas due to multiple small leaks on NHL rink number 1, they were aware of the leaks in advance. Increased and sustained temperatures during the month of June and July. I didn't grow up around here. I grew up elsewhere. And where I grew up, we called months of June and July summer. And why is anyone surprised that it's warmer in the summer and you need more refrigerant and keep the ice cold? That makes no sense to me at all. That's not an emergency. That's just a mistake on somebody's part. And you can go on and on with this thing. It's too hot. And then it goes on to say, not all local suppliers carry the amount of R2 necessary for our facility. Well, that's known. It's in the resolution. They knew it. They should have planned for it, and they didn't. And then you go and you read the emergency purchase documentation form that was submitted to go along with this, and it has language in it that says something to the effect that because the emergency must arrive out of an accident or unforeseen occurrence, it is doubtful a local government may invoke the emergency exception in a situation which is the result of inaction or dilatory behavior on the part of the local officials. And the date for this contract and the date of the purchase, according to this, was June 25th of last month, or June 25th of 2025. That's a month ago. And now suddenly it's an emergency tonight? That's simply not appropriate. And that's not a proper use of the emergency powers under the general municipal law. It's simply not. And I don't see how this board can sit here and actually declare this to be an emergency for something that was purchased and bought and known about well over a month ago. That's totally inappropriate. My guess is somebody ordered it, it got screwed up in the purchase process, and now we're in CYA mode here in order to protect somebody so that we can properly spend $29,000. And I just think it's outrageous.
Christina Coyle-Lenz.
Tim? Tim has a photo. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. On June 9th, I stood before the board and reported that as of June 6th, our entire block had no working streetlights. This is what our street looked like from the corner of South Chateau and Chateau. I literally stopped at the corner and took the photograph. As of last night, that's still what the street looks like. Okay, this is an issue. It's a huge issue. So, on Chateau, the entire block, there are 17 streetlights. This includes the 2 streetlights that are south of Chateau up near Bornhava. Here's what's working. The 2 streetlights between Chateau South and Main, those are working. There's plenty of extra light there, so that's not so critical. There are 2 lights on the south side of South Chateau, those are working. And there's 3 lights on the east side of East Chateau, and those are working. So Supervisor Kulpa, Deputy Supervisor Lavin, Council Members Berger, Zuccalla, and Marinucci, I am addressing this to you as you all voted yes on this project. We purchased existing lights for roughly, were you on the board then? Okay, then I'm sorry. Excuse Councilmember Marinucci was not on the board, so she didn't vote for this. It would have been your predecessor. We purchased existing street lights, and thank you for correcting me, for roughly $4,854 per pole. This calculation is based upon 9,666 fixtures at a net after grants of $33,381,971. Factoring in financing, the estimated total cost of this project is nearly $47 million. This is a huge investment. Light protects, as I said last time, light protects the safety of people and property. We have been largely in the dark all summer. The Snyder Neighborhood Facebook page, and this, by the way, summertime is a little bit more when the kids are out and the opportunistic crime takes place. The Snyder Neighborhood Facebook page had 2 posts today of crime attempts over the weekend to steal from cars, and the conversations in the posts revealed the following neighborhoods with this opportunistic crime. There's a lot of neighborhoods here, and these are residents that have camera evidence of their cars being rifled and doors being tried. Hancock Terrace, Darwin, Lincoln, Kings Highway, Roycroft, Lexington Terrace, Livingston, Harper, boroughs, Hall will. And those are the only ones that people that are on Facebook that posted this. What is this an opportunity for? This is a problem. This is a huge, huge problem. For Chateau, do 17 times this price that we paid per pole. We invested $82,518, and within the first year, we have no lights. Now this, I realize there's a big problem, and that there is a contractor, and the contractors had to bring in a subcontractor, and in my humble opinion, 6 weeks without lights is absolutely unacceptable, and I would ask you to comment on anything that you possibly could with regards to this issue. Thank you.
Okay, John Trabert.
John Traver, Mount Vernon. I just want to thank Councilperson Berger for letting me know that I could research the stuff about the resolutions that you passed. And then doing a little bit of research, I just have a couple questions. So at the last town board meeting on 7/7/25, on the agenda was a resolution for travel approval for an employee in the refuse division of the highway department to attend a compost operations training course in Millbrook, New York. The expenditure approved unanimously by the board was for roughly $2,800. This training seems to be specifically for compost facility managers, local and state regulators, and equipment vendors. Does the person attending the training course fit any of those job descriptions? Isn't the compost facility located at Smith Road operated by C.J. Krantz? Yes or no? Does the town of Amherst oversee or have any management or regulatory involvement with that compost facility? Could the same information offered in this training course be accessed online? It doesn't appear that $2,800 seems like a large sum of money, but when the town is running a deficit and bonding almost all their expenditures, it seems that it's not the best use of taxpayers' dollars. At the same town board meeting, there was another resolution unanimously approved. This was to authorize payment to Simco Refrigeration for pre-engineering design totaling $16,700. This payment is for a contract with Simco that was approved in December of 2023 under a resolution for work on an ice rink ribbon. Can anyone on the board tell the taxpayers if that ice ribbon was ever completed? If it has been completed, where is it? If it was not completed, where was it supposed to be, and why was it not completed? Once again, with the town carrying a heavy debt load, it seems that it may be more taxpayer wasted money. On a side note, I was at Bassett Park 4 days last week, and I went to use the men's room and was alarmed at the poor condition of the facility. The hinges on the commode for the door for the commode are broken, and you can't close that door. There was no paper, so it's a little bit of a issue when you go in there and have a problem and there's no paper. The mirrors were rusty, and the automatic door openings for the handicapped access do not operate at all. So if the town cannot maintain facilities we already have, why would we want to keep continuing to build more? Thank you.
Jerry DeCosmo.
Good evening, Town Board members. I'm Jerry DeCosmo from Meyer Road. I'm addressing this topic now in case I'm away when it comes up to the agenda. I'm speaking tonight regarding Communication 25-27, which appeared on the agenda of April 7th, 2025. Benderson's proposal to rename Beaumont Parkway to Costco Boulevard or Costco Way. Beaumont Parkway is a public road extending from Maple Road to Meyer Road and has existed as such for some time. The following is a list of challenges to renaming Beaumont Parkway.
First, there are no other public roads in the town of Amherst named for retail establishments. To provide a name change would be commercialization of public space. Public roads should serve the community, not advertise for private entities. Naming a road after a business effectively gives free marketing space to a private entity. This would set precedent for corporate naming, which could lead to other businesses lobbying for naming rights, eroding the neutrality of public infrastructure. There is a concern of short-term relevance. Businesses close, relocate, or rebrand. A name tied to a specific commercial brand may become irrelevant or misleading. This may give the impression of the town favoring one developer or business, raising questions of equity and fairness. This could be viewed by other businesses as preferential treatment. As a resident in forced close proximity to this behemoth, I don't want to be associated with a commercial brand, even on a cross street. In the proposal letter from Benderson, it is stated that we as a community should be proud that Costco has chosen to come here and establish a store. And this would be a small token of our collective appreciation for taking a chance on Amherst. I think that Costco would not come here if the numbers didn't indicate success. The appeal of the development should stand on its own merits. Additionally, renaming, it stated, will strengthen the development and assist in wayfinding for those looking to shop in the new development. Nearly everyone has GPS capacity and digital maps, which will direct them appropriately regardless of the street name. Finally, we get to the crux of the matter, traffic. Benderson wants to use this intersection of private public road to reduce traffic on North Bailey by diverting traffic along this new road, a road that was not designed to handle the amount of traffic that this big box store can generate. Is this an effort to minimize the need for mitigation of North Bailey? Beaumont Parkway already serves its function effectively. Beaumont Parkway is an established roadway in Amherst. Adding a new development does not inherently require renaming a road that has historical continuity and navigational familiarity. In conclusion, I implore this board, when renaming Beaumont Parkway appears on the agenda, to heed the unanimous decision of the Planning Board of June 26, denying the road renaming proposal. Renaming Beaumont Parkway is unwarranted, unwanted, and unnecessary. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Garbage, okay. Good evening, town board members. My name is Don Smith, North Long. My first question is the audit report, which was presented in the work session earlier this year, is not on the town website at the moment, okay? All right, it's not specifically, can't be downloaded. The one that's there, the link is to the one from 2023, not 2024.
Can you just repeat that? What is unavailable on the town
The
website?
audit report. Okay, the audit report isn't available on the website. The mere fact that I happen to have the audit report should mean it should be on the town website right now. Okay, the audit report is open source information. You can get it on the web. Okay, your audit report has to be placed there for reasons of your debtor class and all the people that are borrowing money here. So it should be on the website also at the same time. If everybody else can see it, if they know where to find it, so should the town residents. Okay, so right now the audit report is not available. The only reason I can see that it's not available is if it's going to be edited or changed or modified. Then I could see it not being available. But then again, it would be misleading to publish it to the general population in an open source forum. Thank you very much.
Seeing none, I'm going to move to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There, I will address all these, most of the comments at the end. There were two comments pertinent to the consent agenda that I did want to just discuss. And I maybe look to Daniel Latowski for confirmation on this. So we are tonight considering permission to apply for a grant for a comprehensive plan We've been talking about this comprehensive plan moving since last capital planning or since the last CIP. The timeline, so usually CFA awards are awarded in December. That would put a January start to the comprehensive plan. And Dan, my understanding, a community of this size probably would take a couple of years in an effort.
That's correct. The procurement process in itself is going to take some time. We would, assuming we are awarded a $250,000 grant, we would then start a procurement process by sending out requests for qualifications, which could be lengthy. Then we would have to define a scope, obviously then put out a request for quotes. So just the procurement process itself would take some time.
The study parameters of that, if I'm not mistaken, is a full overhaul of the comprehensive plan.
That's the desire to our current plan is over 20 years old.
Which brings us to Audubon. And so we did have, of 3 consultants, 1 retiring self-practitioner, 2 losing their project managers. We asked them to wrap up their work. Town board does not have that plan in front of it for approval. My guess is that we'll accept it, but ultimately this will have to, we'll accept it and roll it into the comprehensive plan as a study. But, you know, we did have to draw that to a conclusion. Dan, again, I'm looking to you for confirmation.
That's correct. We do wish to wrap that up, and presumably we would fold that in as an existing study and reevaluate its conclusions.
And I do want to point out there were no public hearings on it.
There were 2 public hearings, to my knowledge, 2 neighborhood outreach meetings.
Okay,
both of which I think were at.
So
senior
again,
center.
it's not, the town board's not considering it for approval. We are trying to get the consultants to finish and wrap up the work that they've done on it to date, with the idea that we are anticipating starting a complete comprehensive plan overhaul. So, more to come. Is regarding, and then, so that said, the only other comment that I had on the agenda tonight was regarding our 22 refrigerant. That process, it did have to go through town process. It was looked at by legal department, finance department, and comptroller's office. We did need R22 irregardless of how we got there. We did purchase R22. And with that, I'm going to ask the town clerk to please read the consent agenda.
Supervisor Copa, 1. Councilmember Lavin, 1, 2. Councilmember Zucalo, 1. Town clerk, 1. Building maintenance, 1. Comptroller, 1. Contract compliance, 1. Court, 1, 2. Economic development, 1. Engineering, 1, 2. Human resources, 1, 2. Planning, 1. Senior services, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sewer plant, 16, 1, 2, 3. Youth and recreation, 1, 2. Communications, first one's consent, second's consent. Third is referred to attorney. Planning, include resolution 2025-564. Number 4 is referred to attorney. Planning, and including resolution 2025-564. Thank you.
With that, I'm going to motion to adopt tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? We do have one suspension item this evening regarding the use or distribution of mitigation funds. Going to first motion to go off agenda for the purposes of adopting a resolution.
Second.
So, all in favor? Next, I'm going to motion the following suspension item. So first, I'm going to start off by saying opportunity funds are collected in Boulevard Central District as based on an EIS that this town board had previously adopted. In this case, we're talking about mitigation funds derived from the Dick's House of Sports and the Costco projects that have been paid to the town. So whereas The Opportunity Zone designation of Census Tract 92 in 2018 provided possible federal tax incentives to investors for redevelopment projects and provided the opportunity for the town to reimagine and redevelop one of the most successful commercial areas in a comprehensive manner. And whereas the Boulevard Central District, BCD, was then created, derived for the Opportunity Zone designation, and is bounded by Interstate 290 to the north and east, Niagara Falls Boulevard on the west, and generally Sheridan Drive on the south, but also includes parcels abutting south side of Sheridan. And whereas to accommodate and attract future development to the BCD and identify environmental impacts and mitigation measures needed as a result of this development, the town of Amherst prepared a BCD General Environmental Impact Statement, or GEIS, and adopted the finding statement in January of 2020. And whereas a major result of the BCD GEIS is the requirement that developers of projects in the BCD contribute to a proportionate share of the cost of identified mitigation projects such as roadway, sanitary sewer, and water system upgrades needed to offset the impacts of that development and development mitigation costs, as outlined in a mitigation schedule that identifies the fees to be collected and allocated to the specific mitigation projects. And whereas the town is currently working with a supplemental GEIS, SGEIS, which incorporates an updated growth projections and related changes to mitigation projects and fees such as those related to transportation and roadway infrastructure upgrades. And whereas Niagara Falls Boulevard between the Interstate 290 and Sheridan Drive forms the western boundary of the BCD and is identified as the corridor in the BCD GEIS that requires mitigation. And whereas Niagara Falls Boulevard is built out within its right-of-way and expanding it further is neither feasible nor in the best interest of the town. And whereas the town is working collaboratively with NYS DOT on identifying mitigation measures along Niagara Falls Boulevard other than geometry changes that could be implemented as part of mitigation of this corridor in the SGEIS. And whereas NISDOT Region 5 Transportation has identified innovative technologies such as smart signals and adaptive signal system that would improve traffic flow without the need for physical changes to the highway. And whereas the town is receptive to using BCD mitigation fees collected towards improving all surrounding highways regardless of jurisdiction to better traffic flow in the area. And therefore be it resolved, the town board supports the contribution of collected mitigation fees from developers towards Niagara Falls Boulevard within the list of identified projects to include installation of smart signals with video detection for cameras at Niagara Falls Boulevard intersections with Ridge Lee eastbound 290 ramps, the adaptive signal software for Niagara Falls Boulevard from Maple Road to I-290 westbound off-ramp, and therefore be it resolved, the town will continue to coordinate with NYS DOT to identify additional mitigation on state highways as part of the town's SGEIS mitigation, may include but not be limited to signal replacements, intersection improvements, roadway widening, or additional adaptive signal control technology as identified in the SGEIS statement of findings. Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The motion return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to motion the second round of public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi, Joseph Lane, 6 Goldfinch Court again. Just to clarify, because I need to report back to the board in 2 weeks, that my understanding is that the new community district is a draft plan to be submitted to the town board for the town board's review and decision to accept or not. But it sounded like the decision is simply going to be to accept it. So I guess my question is, the concerns we've raised, and we've gone page by page with quotes of what's in there, where we see misstatements, information isn't factual, information is incompatible with the plan. I don't know how that will be resolved if it's accepted as a plan for the next 50 years. So just to clarify, because I didn't understand that comment that, well, we'll probably accept the draft plan as a plan.
I'll clarify that in a moment.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, Thomas Frank. I'd just like to comment on economic development, the resolution 640 regarding the smart growth planning grant application preparation for the new comprehensive plan. And what I would urge you to include in the application for the Regional Economic Development Council, the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application deadline for July 31st at 4 p.m., that it should include the issues that were brought up as far as the planning project having to do with the drainage of the, as far as the Ellicott Creek is the lifeblood of the town of Amherst. And that the, as far as the comprehensive Amherst Central State Park Greenway plan, that this is, we're looking at a $10 million 5-year development project that's a part of, there are two parts that, as far as the drainage of where we are, the hydrogeographic topography, that it's a part of the Niagara River Greenway relicensing settlement, having to do with the Onondaga Escarpment's connection to the Niagara Escarpment and the Niagara Power Project, the $450 million that they allocated to mitigate the negative impact on the watershed as far as the development. That's why the United States Army Corps of Engineers did the survey of the sinking houses in Amherst that nobody really wanted to hear about. That the, and what I'm suggesting is that the Glen Park Joint Board is the lead agency for this effort, and that it would include the Amherst State Park as far as the boiler house that's been vacant for 20 years, that's 404 Mill Street, that's owned by the town, as far as the adaptive reuse of the asbestos contaminated building as an environmental education center tied into the school districts. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
And that really, as far as the Genesee Valley, the Greenway State Park, that this is a part of the watershed. Outside, right outside the door here, it's contaminated. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. Resolution 652 tonight. This isn't the first time since I've been coming to these meetings that we've had to have an emergency purchase covered to buy R22 out there. If the place leaks so badly that these emergencies continue to happen, why not bite the bullet and have it fixed? I read the resolution. It said it would be require a major capital investment to fix it. Well, if we can afford a major capital investment to build a new athletic facility for Damon University, and we can afford a major capital investment to buy the gun club, and so on and so forth, then maybe we can afford a major capital investment to fix something that the people of this town actually use, instead of doing things to help Damon University and BlackRock and outfits like that. And that's just a thought. But there's been other emergency purchases approved by this board to buy R22. My guess is somebody out there is just not doing their job. But, and then Resolution 640, Ms. Cox asked the question about the comprehensive plan amendment, and I guess we're going to do a new comprehensive plan. And And one of the nice things about doing that kind of stuff is, you know, consultants drool when they see it coming because they know they're going to get their pockets lined for a couple of years to help put the plan in place. And eventually some board down the road will approve the plan at a meeting, and in the very next meeting, somebody will come in with a resolution to amend the comprehensive plan. Because by the time you've done the plan, it's all, and voted for it, it's already out of date.
John Traber, Mount Vernon Road. In the past, people have asked about the property located at 218 and 330 Maple Road. That property was purchased by the town of Amherst under a resolution in 2024 for $5.72 million with supposedly a short-term loan. Apparently, a portion of this property was then to be sold to UBMD, and that transaction was to be completed in the first quarter of 2025. At a board meeting of 3/24/25, it was asked if the transaction was completed, and the answer was no. On 4/7/25, the question was asked again about the status of this deal, and we were told that by the supervisor that it was very close and that the attorneys were trading information. On July 7th, the same question was posed, and we were told that it was a work in progress and that the deal should happen by the end of the year. I believe the board then went into executive session to discuss this matter. What was the outcome of the executive session? In the past, when questioned about the delay in the sale and what this was going to cost the taxpayers, the supervisor advised that it was not costing anything. There must have been some costs associated with the purchase of this property. Every real estate deal costs something. How much have we racked up in attorneys and transaction fees? How much has the town lost in tax revenue by taking ownership? A big question is, where did the $5.72 million for the purchase originally come from? According to the Amherst Bee, a bond measure was approved for $5.9 million, but the supervisor tells us that we are not paying any interest. How could this be? Did this town borrow that money from the general fund? If you did borrow it from the general fund, and we have that amount of money in the general fund, why are we bonding so many smaller projects? Are we taking money from other departments and leaving them short? Please explain how this project was funded and what the true costs are, directly or indirectly. Thank you.
Gonna motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'm going to start with Audubon, just to clarify. So accepting is basically a planning way of saying receive and file, but it is meant to be informative to future process. We realize that with multiple changeover in consultant staffs, specifically their project managers, that we were better off dealing with this through the comprehensive planning process. And so, yes, when I say accept, obviously there's got to be some corrections made in terms of grammatical errors, those types of items. Once those are complete and it shows up before the town board, that plans have there's two ways you could do, three ways. You could reject it, you can adopt it, or you can accept it. Adoption means that, hey, we want to basically take this plan and adopt it into our comprehensive plan, amend the comprehensive plan with that plan, or adopt it as a guiding principle. Accepting, again, means we're willing to accept the work done thus far and use it as a guide for future work, or use it as a way of weighing in on future work. And then there's rejection outright. I think there are some good aspects of this plan. This board will have to make decisions once we see it in its entirety.
Supervisor, if I may, I attended that work session or that community forum last month. And if you'll recall, because I think you sat right in front of me, they were still putting Post-its on the board. So the plan itself is not done. So we will make sure that your comments are also shared over there before we see it. I'm not saying they will or won't be implemented, but it wasn't finalized as of that last forum. And we'll make sure that this letter at least gets to them for review before it's presented to us for acceptance, rejection, or approval.
Yeah, okay. Then it'll be noticed, in terms of board meeting agenda when it appears. There were a couple other questions that I'll just respond to. First, in terms of training and compost facility, we do have a compost facility that the town operates. It's all the food scrap. That is a complicated measure. It is an important item to deal with because food scrap doesn't go into the compost facility run by Krantz. We have a successful food scrap program. Food scrap creates a tremendous amount of burden on our disposal resources. And we do have a functioning program up and running directly by the compost department. So we do in fact run a composting facility, maybe not the one that you're thinking of. The town is not running a deficit. It implies that we run deficits and then we're not balancing budgets. We have been balancing budgets. We're not running deficit. So that's an incorrect statement. Simcoe completed a project. It was to study the ability to put an ice ribbon at Central Park. Once they completed the study that they worked on, we determined as a board that the cost of that project was not one that we were interested in pursuing due to the nature of the ice melt and the amount of time that we would be able to sustain. If you go to Toronto across the border, they have 5 of those. We were able to look at those as models for this project, but clearly they're willing to take on costs that we weren't. As far as the Beaumont to Costco, I don't know that this town board has any interest in bringing that to resolution anytime soon. Remains to be seen. I think the last time a road was named for a commercial development, it was probably Beaumont itself. Moving forward, as far as the R22 situation goes, we are in the process of replacing our chillers. If you were listen to our conversation at work session, you will know we're currently about 50% of the way through replacing the chiller and the system that was leaking R22 on our feature rink. We can't take 4 systems down and replace all of the chillers at once. We're currently planning to pursue a grant and take on the second of 4 chillers, but we do have a feature rink offline already. It's a slow process because it literally involves replacing a lot of the main components of those rinks, and we're simply not going to take down more than 1 rink at once. And then regarding the gun club project, it is still in process. We have not incurred any interest on that as we have yet to go to bond. We don't bond or don't borrow until October in this town, meaning that right now we have used fund balance to float the purchase. We do expect that project will close before the end of the calendar year, but I'm not willing to discuss executive session. So thank you all very much. If you would like to talk about streetlights specifically on in Snyder, we do need to talk to our technical staff because I don't currently know where that process is. So I appreciate it. With that, I'm going to motion to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.